Hi, Sparkles, and welcome back to Intuitive Wisdom. Today, our conversation is all about everyday courage and what it means to move forward even when fear is along for the ride. I'm joined by Cortney Hackett, a self-leadership strategist and voice behind Grit and Grace. With a background in engineering and project management, Cortney knows how to design steps and strategies. But what she's most passionate about is helping women develop the mindset to support those steps and to prove to themselves that they are already ready. In this episode, we explore how to lean into fear instead of pretending it's not there, the strategy of scheduling your freakout time, building an evidence bank to remind yourself of your capability, leading powerfully in the little moments, and why letting go of outcomes helps you show up more fully. This conversation is a reminder that you don't need to change the whole world to change your world. Here we go. Welcome to Intuitive Wisdom, a space where insight meets energy and intuition leads the way. I'm K. Margaret Solorio, author, Angel Reiki Master, biotech graduate, and a guide for those seeking alignment in their home and life. Whether you're navigating change, clearing emotional clutter, or simply craving clarity, Intuitive Wisdom invites you to slow down, tune in, and rise into your authentic self. New episodes weekly. Come home to your own knowing. Okay, Sparkles, quick announcements before we get to the value-packed interview with Cortney. First, have you taken my free quiz yet? It's called, Is Your Home Supporting Your Expansion? And it only takes a few minutes. You'll get deep insight into how your space may be influencing your energy and where you might want to shift things. You can find it at deliciousease.com/quiz. And if your space feels heavy, stuck, or just a little off, I offer a service called the Home Frequency Reset, a remote, intuitive, energetic refresh designed to bring your home back into harmony with you. It's perfect if you're craving a fresh start or deeper alignment with your vision. And last but not least, my book, Make Ease Your Vibe, is now available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle versions. It's filled with practical strategies for shifting your energy, managing your time intuitively, and raising your daily frequency. And when you grab your copy, you can also get access to exclusive bonuses for each chapter at deliciousease.com. All right, now to the interview. Cortney Hackett is a self-leadership strategist and the voice behind Grit and Grace, where she teaches quietly ambitious women how to stop outsourcing their power and start leading themselves through the everyday hard things that shape a life worth living. With a background in engineering and project management and a passion for practical mindset shifts, she combines grounded strategy with everyday courage, helping women break out of fear loops and create momentum that sticks. Her mission? To help women stop waiting to feel ready and start proving to themselves that they already are. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Cortney. Well, welcome, Cortney, again. Thank you for joining me. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited for our conversation.
Same.
Well, you may know on this podcast, I like to explore the magic that happens when you learn to hear and trust your intuitive wisdom. So I was curious for you, what's one of the greatest insights you've received from your intuitive wisdom and acted on?
So I love this. This is interesting for me. As you know, because we've been doing this and communicating for some time, I went through this period of trying to figure out what my big life purpose was. And I kept waiting for this giant billboard to sort of pop up and the sign to just say, this is it, and give me the answer. And I realized that that's not how that happens. At least that's not going to be how it happens for me. And I need to do things and then lean into how that feels and let my intuition sort of guide if it's a yes or a no for me to better understand my purpose. So I don't know if there's really been any one big thing, but lately for me, it's been doing and then allowing myself to hear what the response is to whatever that thing is.
I love that. And one, I think it's really powerful to not just focus on like one event that maybe changed the course, but it's the method. And I think it really speaks to what you do and teach. So I will keep going with my questions because that goes great. So like you mentioned, we've known each other for a while now, and I think of you as someone who has tamed fear, which is awesome. We all have fears that come up, but you've created strategies to help move forward despite the fear. So I was wondering if you could share more about that.
Yeah, I heard, and I don't remember where, and apologies for not remembering where, but somebody referenced it once and said something about, letting fear sit in the car, but not be in the driver's seat. And I really appreciated that because I feel like a lot of times there's this push to just push through the fear and just do it and kind of get over it. And I think if you don't ever stop and understand what it is that's driving the fear, it's never going to go away. You're just going to spend the rest of your life living in fear. Even if you're doing the thing, you're still doing it in fear. And that's not, I don't think, how anybody really wants to live. So I think a big thing for me has just been acknowledging that it exists, understanding that it's coming from something, and saying it's okay that you're here, but you're not going to be what's making whatever the decision is unless there's that actual danger or whatever, because a lot of times it comes from us thinking that we're in danger for some sort of reason. So I think that's the big one, is just not pretending that fear doesn't exist and forcing ourselves to do it anyway.
I love that. And I'm going to share, there was a while where you were like scheduling your fear, kind of like a scheduling the freak out time. And I
Yes.
love that because it was so, I don't know, fear does come over as this like, what's the right way of describing that? Like, such a dominant ruler, when you're scheduling your freak out time, it's like, oh no, you're an emotion of mine, that you're here to help me, and we're going to have this time and I'm going to acknowledge you, but I'm in the driver's seat, as you said.
Yes, and I still do that. So if there's a situation, I am embarrassed to say this out loud, but I still have a hard time just making phone calls, and the most basic of phone calls. Okay, I have to call the dentist to schedule an appointment, and it makes me nervous or that sort of thing. And so if there's something like that there, it's coming up and it's making me uncomfortable. I used to just spend from whenever I thought about it until it happened, just living in that anxiety and the fear. And I found that one time I just said, okay, at this time on this date, and I believe it was like, it wasn't making a doctor's appointment. It was, I had to have a conversation about something that wasn't right. And that made me a little bit nervous. And I was like, okay, I'm calling them Monday at whatever time. And I think I gave myself 5 minutes before that time. And I put it in my calendar. I actually scheduled it on my calendar and said, that's your 5 minutes to be uncomfortable with the situation. And then you're going to deal with it and move on. And so anytime I found myself over the weekend thinking about it again, and I was like, nope, Monday at 10:15 or whatever it was, that's your allotted be anxious time. And I found it actually really helped me to kind of keep it in control, and I didn't spend the entire weekend, stressed about something.
I love that because it feels like a more we also just read a money mindset book together where I like one of the mantras is I only I'm going to say it wrong. I only acknowledge or I only nope, I don't remember, but it's something about like only focusing on the thoughts that serve me, like not paying attention or not giving time due to thoughts that aren't good for you. And so for me, that comes across as similar, but a little more moderate, not just like, nope, that's not helpful, but saying, okay, I acknowledge you and we have a time to figure this out, but I'm not going to let it take over all of my days.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's there. It's there for a reason. I'm not going to pretend that it's not, but it's not going to be the thing that drives whatever it is. So you can have your 30 seconds of fame, and then we're going to move on and we're going to do big girl things.
So good. All right. On your website, you note that leading yourself forward takes a clear strategy, grounded mindset, and practical action. So, how do you help your clients move forward towards their dreams, even if everything feels overwhelming?
Yeah. So I'm a very technical person, background. So, I'm engineer and project manager. So the helping to identify the steps and like an action plan is relatively easy. And I think a lot of people don't have a hard time sort of putting that in place. Where I find the staying motivated and moving forward is the mindset part that comes with it. When things get hard, not understanding either what's driving it being hard and then also how to get around it. And I approach that very much the same as the stuff as sort of a project. Break it down. So what's the source? How does resistance and that sort of thing show up so that we know ahead of time what to sort of expect? Do you procrastinate? Do you come up with all these other excuses for why you can't do perfectionism? All of those different things. Knowing sort of what's coming and then, okay, what's the game plan to get through that? And I find that when you're kind of ready for the hard mental stuff and have a way to sort of get through that, then the steps of whatever the thing is that you're trying to do becomes a lot easier to manage.
That makes sense. And not the same, I know it all. But what comes to mind is like when I was in college and had to write big papers and really didn't want to, it was always the first paragraph that, like, getting myself to sit down and write the first paragraph, that was the hardest. And you're right, it's that mental game. And then once you get the ball rolling, it's rolling.
I mean, momentum is it's a thing. So yeah, I mean, once you get started and it seems, I could lay it out and say, okay, we're going to do this step and this step and this step, but it's so often, those aren't words. It's the mental part of getting to that first step. And I think that's the sometimes missing piece of how to sort of stay in that when it becomes a little overwhelming.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love the vision that you articulate too, a world where you get to lead not just in the big moments, but powerfully and strategically in the daily hard things. So I was hoping you could talk more to us about what it means to you to be powerful in the little moments.
Yeah, I appreciate this question because I feel like a lot of times some of the conversations are about finding resilience and doing the really hard things to try to do really big things. And for a lot of people, it's not about, being a big face somewhere, on a billboard in Times Square. Like, that's not the goal. That's not where a lot of the women that I talk to and work with sort of struggle. It is those everyday conversations and experiences that are kind of preventing them from being able to feel like they're in complete control. I had some coaching rooms that was just as simple as the finances, where not having a good grasp of her budget and where her money was going had her feeling like she just didn't have any control. I keep saying that word. I apologize. And come on a couple of other ones, but so simple things like that, or conversations around just setting boundaries. There was another situation, having help around the house in some of the chores was something that she wasn't receiving. And instead of just sort of addressing that, she just continued to live sort of in resentment. And then it bubbled into everything else. And it was just as simple as like, okay, set your expectations, have those conversations, and it changed everything. So that's kind of what I mean by the little moments, just the things that we do every day. It's not about changing the world sometimes. It's just about changing your world.
I love that. And I think it even speaks to what you said in the very beginning. It's more the method and how you approach it and less the specific things. Because I think there's this like false information that we receive. Like when you meet somebody and they say, the first question they ask is, what do you do? So it's almost like you're supposed to define yourself by the work you do, and life is somehow secondary, except for you are life. So that doesn't quite make sense. And so I think a lot of times, I know for me, like if the emphasis is here's how you work and here's how you work well, and maybe you don't learn about those boundaries in other situations, that is your life and you have to figure that out. Or you say, well, if I'm doing work well, like I can tolerate the rest, and that somehow feels like a balance. But it's really, if you get the little things down and that's how you approach and that's how you present yourself and that's how you feel good, that can positively affect everything else.
Absolutely. And something else I've recently been learning about and thinking with all of this is just like attachment to, and we've talked about this too, attachment to the outcome. And I think because we don't learn those, and I say boundaries, but they're boundaries within ourselves, like what our expectations are, what we're comfortable with. And that's not always just conversations, but just in general. because we don't have those a lot of times, we're not taught those from the beginning, we develop an attachment to an outcome of a situation. And I think if we have those sort of boundaries in place where we go, I'm just stating that this is what I need, then if the conversation goes a way that's different than what you sort of expected, you aren't going to be so quick to get defensive, right? Because you're not attached to that necessarily. You're just saying, well, hold on, we're just having a conversation. And then you're just working through whatever it is. And I think because we miss that a lot of times, we go into a lot of things already defensive. And it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. No, it does. Excuse me, it makes a lot of sense. And it's such a relief. Like I think I just really like heard that internal exhale where there is a lot of fear comes up, but I don't know if that's the right word of like, if you do have to have a difficult conversation or if you are holding a boundary or if you are making a change and you're presenting yourself differently. Yeah. Being powerful in those small moments. I think is really key. Please tell us more about, you offer something called Power Sprint Coaching to help work through the transitions and step into that true hero power. Can you tell us more about your program?
Yes. So it's, and you've got Power Sprint because it's a 30-day intensive type thing. So not just, open-ended sort of coaching, but it's where we work through initially, where's your energy going? Where do you feel those drains and where do you want it to go? So you can identify like, this is the thing that's stopping me from feeling like I have control over either the situation or my life in general. And then we work through where we want to be, what, ideal version looks like, and what are the steps to get from A to B. So again, where does resistance show up? Whenever you try to do this thing, have this conversation, whatever it is, what do you usually experience and do? How can we, get ready for that and put things in place ahead of time? And then what are the actual steps? Okay, well, I need to do this, and then I need to do this, and I need to do this. And then we also spend a lot of time creating what I call like an evidence bank. So when you do these things that are maybe scary and it doesn't go the way that you thought it was, documenting that. So the next time you're in that spot where you're like, oh, I remember last time I freaked out about it, and this is actually how it turned out. That's my new evidence. That type of stuff. So 30-day, sort of coaching program. We create a strategy to identify the thing that is maybe most draining or will make the biggest impact and get you from A to B.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the strategy because I think a lot of times when we want to get somewhere we haven't been, it just feels overwhelming because you just don't know how to get there. But I think there's a lot of value too in that reflection. And you make journals as well. And I've used one of your journals and it was a lot like daily prompt questions and prompts to make me think and actually understand how those symptoms or that resistance was manifesting. Cause I think sometimes when we're in it, and that's kind of been our pattern for a long time, we don't recognize it as resistance. We just think it's part of the process or part of who we are. It's not obvious. And having that information, and like you were just saying, if you're tracking that and you can anticipate it, that's really helpful.
Yeah, from both the front end and the back end. So we do a little bit, like I said, knowing, okay, what I think is going to happen when I try to do this thing. And normally, I shut down, I come up with other projects, I have excuses. Okay, we're anticipating that. What are we going to do different this time? But then the other side, you know what? I didn't expect this to happen. And this did show up as resistance. Okay, noted. This probably came from this feeling, whatever it was. Next time we're going to do this differently. So yeah, anticipating it. And also, like you said, recognizing it after the fact.
Yeah, because I don't think it's obvious. And I think that's really, there's so much value in better understanding yourself when you get that reflection back. Well, that's amazing. Is there anything else you would like to add to our conversation?
I would just like to say that I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to talk about this. And then I guess just, a reminder to anybody listening that you really are capable of doing whatever it is that you want to do. And there's almost nothing that can stop you. And I'm proud of any one of you who are going after whatever that dream might be. That's it.
Yay. Well, tell us the best place for people to connect with you and your work.
So I am on Instagram at official grit and grace. And I do have, I think I provided the link for it, a guide for kind of setting boundaries. So it's like 3 steps to be able to sort of set those boundaries. And that's available for anybody who has an interest there.
Great.
I think those are probably the 2 best.
Sounds good. I will make sure and include those links in the show notes. And thank you again. I very much appreciated this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. I did too.
Thank you for joining me on Intuitive Wisdom. If this episode brought you clarity or inspiration, please take a moment to leave a 5-star review. It truly helps others find this space. And if someone you love, you could use a shift in energy, share this episode with them. You never know what might resonate. For more, explore my frequency reset service, tune into more episodes, or begin the journey through my book, all at deliciousease.com. That's DELICIOUSEASE.com. All right, until next time, trust your energy, honor your space, and keep coming home to yourself.